Hey everybody, it's Brandon, and I'm going to be talking about Barbarians of Lemuria. This is like the Mythic Plus edition, and it's the Sword and Sorcery role-playing game. And I like how it boldly says that with the Sword. It doesn't say a Sword and Sorcery. It's trying to definitely put itself out there as the Sword and Sorcery role-playing game. There is a lot to talk about. I am certain this video is going to be quite long. I don't know yet because I'm just at the beginning of it, but from what everything I've got to say about it, which is a lot, this is going to be a long video. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that, I've done a lot of videos. I look at a lot of products. This was one that mainly, the art is extremely good. That's a big draw point from it. But I was already very interested in the system from my video on Dicey Tales. If you haven't seen that, please go check that out. Really cool game, really cool system. And that system came from this right here. And from what I'm aware of, this was an edition that the French made an edition of Barbarians of Lemuria, and I'm going to just call it Barbarians from now on so my mouth doesn't twist and tie all up trying to say that every time. They had a French version of Barbarians, and they used a great artist right here who did this whole book. His name is Emmanuel Houdier, and he is an extremely good artist. And so the people over here said, whoa, we like that art. We'd like to have that in our a version of the game. And so they did that, and that's what this is. So it's like Mythic Plus. It is by a company called Ludospheric right here. It is available. It's not available as of right now of me recording this on ttrpg, but I will have a link down in the description so that you can go to Studio 2's website and you can order it from there. It's like $42, I think, for PDF and print. Very, very high quality. It has this, it's soft cover, but it has these kind of flaps, which I think is pretty neat. It's got everything you want here on the back. It's going to tell you a lot of what it is. And it really is a sword and sorcery role-playing game. And there's a couple things that I wish were a little bit different about the book, but this is going to be a pretty glowing video. It's going to be a real endorsement of this because it's, with all the stuff that I look at, this is one of the ones that kind of gets the heart kind of pumping. You're like, whoa, this is a neat system. One that I'm already kind of familiar with reading Dicey Tales, and you look at this and you go, wow, the art is so good, and it's got a lot going for it, and it makes you want to play it. And it's almost one of those games where it's like, well, could this replace a game that's already kind of like my sword and sorcery game? Should I just play this? It seems really like a fun system that's easy. And it's almost like a game. It's whenever I found Savage Worlds, that's what it did to me. Where I was like, wow, this is a fun system. Like where actually the gameplay is actually fun. And I feel that same thing with this on an easier level. An even easier, more role-playing, creative level. And so let's just kind of go through some stuff. I'm going to have to jump over a lot of sections, or this video will be very long. I do have a couple negative points about it, and they're very minor. These are just a couple of things that are just nitpicks. A couple little things. We'll get through it. So it says a complete game system, simple but elegant. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'm just going to kind of give you a detailed description of Lemuria, an inhospitable land where the evil shadow of the sorcerer kings still lingers. A bestiary with more than 50 strange and formidable creatures. Roles that can include in your scenarios and sagas for pitched battles on land and for warfare at sea, where your heroes will be on the front lines and in their actions will have an immediate impact on the outcome of the battle. So it's got war rules in essence. It's got mass battles, and you can do some stuff with your characters to influence those battles. 5 ready-to-play adventures and a Saga Generator if you are lacking in inspiration. So let me just go ahead and repeat that. 5 ready-to-play adventures. That was a big aspect of this where I was like, whoa, that's really great. I don't usually see 5 adventures in games. And of course, it's got a character sheet and tables, to provide a quick overview of the rules. So let's go ahead and hit one of the negatives I feel to it. I think the art is great. The only thing that kind of, it doesn't fit with it as well is this right here, Barbarians of Lemuria. The way that header right there is, the way that the name of the game is. It's already kind of a dark cover, and then this is kind of like a demure kind of dark thing too. I wish this was bigger, bolder, just brasher. I wish it was metal. I wish it was fire. I wish it was something come alive and really in your face, really aggressive, and says, boom, you know, this is a font that's not even a font. It's really more like art. You know, something like that. Rick James had an amazing album called Throwing Down, where his name is just an awesome piece of art. Definitely not a font you could use, and it's something that I wish was there. So again, that's a very small nitpick, because I feel like this cover is already dark, and that's dark as well. So there it is. I got it out there. My little thing there. And you're going to see some of the art. Now, we're going to tell you that this game fully embraces what Sword and Sorcery is all about. And a lot of that does deal with some halfway nude pictures, a piece of art, I should say. It does not try to cut corners or be kind of easy at what it's doing. This is for people who enjoy Sword and Sorcery, who enjoy Conan, and the game's going to reflect that in its art. So here we've got the table of contents, kind of explaining the story of it right there, and, you know, how it kind of came to be with the translations, the Mythic Edition. Telling you more about Sword and Sorcery. And again, you can see this art. I was just really blown away by it. I think he's fantastic. He did also the role-playing game Worm, and he's just got a really good sense of, I don't know, just creativity and embracing the Sword and Sorcery genre. So then it's going to tell you about some things about, obviously, what's role-playing, what's players, game master. We've seen these things, and this is a very good section here, obviously. I love key terms. Anymore now, I'm starting to look for this stuff, key terms, because I read the rules and I go back, and I'm saying, well, do they have that as part of one of the key terms for when I need to go find it? And I found that it had most of it here, and this was very easy to digest. And I'm going to repeat a lot of my stuff if you've seen my Dicey Tales video, just because people might not have seen that. And so the way this game works is you're going to have 4 attributes: strength, agility, mind, and appeal. And you're also going to have 4 careers. And it's going to make up the background of your character. It's going to make a story of your character. And so you'll choose 4 careers for the character, at which they'll have the little ability rank. Like they'll have a rank of 0 is like you did that career. A great rank, like a great ability, would be like rank 5. It says, although this would only be after they've gained great acclaim from their adventures. So usually it's somewhere between 1 and 4. All right. So you've got your careers, you've got your attributes. You're going to have combat abilities that are 4 of those as well: initiative, melee, ranged, and defense. You're going to have some traits that are going to define you. They're going to be boons and flaws. It talks about some house rules right there, and it's going to give you, immediately gives you the task roll, how you do this game. And look at this art. I just really, really dig it. And there's a lot of kind of pencil art that just really, really sings to what I wanted to see this book delivered. So again, I'm going to go through it again. You roll 2d6. You're going to add an appropriate attribute. So if you got a +1 in an attribute like agility, you're going to add +1 to that thing. If you're fighting, you're going to add your appropriate combat ability. If you're not fighting, you're going to add the rank of a career that would influence that task roll. You something you gain from it. If you were on a boat, now you're doing something with the boat. That you were a pirate and you're on a boat, then you can add that career to it. You need to roll a 9 or more, and you're going to succeed. A natural 12 is always success, and a natural 2 is always a failure. So you could always fail. That's the core mechanic, and that's the thing they want you to use for everything. That's why it says the core mechanic. It's really one of the main things about it. If you have an issue, revert back to the task roll. That's paramount, okay? So creating a hero. Here we go. We've got our attributes. So you've got 0 to 5. So an average person would be 0. And then, of course, mythic would be a 5th and would be 5 for the value. So you're going to get 4 points, and you can do those all between them. So you could be superior in all your 4 things, or you could just be average and use those points to be better at some of the other things, like maybe agility or mind. And then the thing that really stuck out with me with Dicey Tales, and I'll be referenced Dicey Tales a good bit because it's the first thing I kind of was introduced to this kind of system. I know it's kind of backwards here, but you can always buy down an attribute so that you can put a point in another one of the attributes. And one thing I think is just genius, like it was in Dicey Tales, it tells you here, and it's going to really give you great information and not leave you stranded at why you should have strength and maybe why you shouldn't buy down strength. So again, Dicey Tales, it was just a surprise to me. I usually don't see stuff like that. And it's going to say like here, like reasons why not to buy down agility, to make it -1 so you can get that point to put it someplace else. It's just smart. And I can't just sit here and point out every piece of art, but boy, do they just really sing to me. And you've got appeal, reasons why not to buy down appeal, just great. And you got combat abilities, initiative, melee, ranged, and defense. Defense, that's going to be a number that's going to subtract from whenever someone's trying to make their task roll to attack you. You're going to have initiative. It has a priority system. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And it tells you, again, reasons not to buy initiative down. You're always going to get in a fight. Acting first can be critical to your chances of survival. Acting last is a road to an early grave. And I really like the writing. Like, no more needs to be said. Like, you don't even need to ask why this is important. Like, that's what it says to you. Like, you're really trying to hamper yourself if you do these things. And I like the fact that it tells you that. It didn't need to do that. And you could have just found out by just, oh, well, that's not great. I shouldn't have done that. But it's telling you, hey, don't do that, Or if you do, this is what's going to be the repercussions from it. Then you're going to have some boons. You have boons and flaws. Your traits of who your character is. And a lot of those are going to be tied into kind of where you're from, the land that your origins are from. Lifeblood is going to be pretty much your hit points. It's 10 plus your strength attribute. So obviously if you buy down your strength, you'll have less lifeblood. You've got hero points, which you can use for some really cool stuff. You're going to start off with 5 hero points. And then you get advancement points that are going to help you make your character stronger. So you're going to have an origin. You're going to come from a certain place in the world of Lemuria here, the land of Lemuria. And so you'll have regional traits. So there's a little bit here about your first boon must come from the city or region that you pick. And I really like that. It ties it into that land of where those people are from. Your second boon can come from your career or region. But if you take this, you must also take a flaw from your birthplace or permanently remove 1 hero point. So you'll only have 4. That'll be your max. And I like that you get these choices. Next is your third boon can be from the master list. So there's a master list of boons, not from your region list. But you must take a flaw or permanently remove 1 hero point. So there's a couple choices you have here, and I like the fact that it does that. And what's going to be is this. So it says like you're going to roll, we looked at the task roll. It's 2d6. Where was that little thing? It's going to be, you'll see it a couple times in the book. So you're going to roll 2d6. So what it means is if you get, you're going to get a bonus. So let's say if you have a boon and you say you're from the Axos Mountains here and you're going to get alert, right? Or let's make sure we get it right. Let's get to this section. I'm going to tell you something that's wrong. Just want to show you some more of this art. Some of the different areas. It's going to tell you about the area of the people. There are boons that you can pick from the flaws and then male and female names. A lot of cool areas. As you can see, fantastic art. I'm probably be repeating myself a bunch. Here's the careers. So you'll choose, again, 4 of these. And you want to kind of do it as a story. That's one thing it tells you here, career path examples. A lot of great examples in this book. So it's going to tell you about this character, Dagul, here, and how he started off in a family of traders. It led him to sea, became a sailor, he became a slave, and then he became a magician. So some neat stuff right there. And one thing that's really great about it is it tells you like what's an important attribute for this career, how they are in adventuring. And these are the sections that are really good, is to help you say, what is this character going to do when you're out there, when you've got this career? How is this character when they're fighting? Suggested boons, suggested flaws, and maybe some other stuff that may have to come from it, maybe languages and stuff like that. But that's just very helpful. It really helps you understand the stuff that you're picking. Like here's Barbarian, this one where a lot of people might choose from. And so some of the boons you can only get because they're like tundra-born or jungle-born. Obviously, you're not going to be born twice. So you can only pick that at career generation. Again, look at this art. It's just really great, big on the page. I just really, really enjoy it. Gladiator, hunter, magician. We've got merchant, mercenary, and noble. It goes. But the thing is, if you're a sailor, like I said, it's going to help you understand. Like this is what you would be good at, and this is how you would add that. Like say you've got sailor rank 1 or 2, how you would add that to your task roll. Should you be doing something that a sailor would know how to do? And that's something with like DCC kind of uses that. It's this whole mentality of make it simple. What is your background? Can you do that? And would that apply to the thing that you're doing? It talks about creating careers, but it really tells you that these really cover everything. And it says here an example is like if you want to make someone that's really good with a bow, you don't have to make an archer career. The archer is really just a soldier or a mercenary skilled with a bow. It doesn't really work that way. You don't have to. You're doing extra work, and the game has already taken it over for you. So here are the boons. So a boon is going to grant you a bonus die, and what that means is you're going to roll 3d6, and you'll pick the 2 highest ones. A lot of times the flaws or anything that hampers you, you're going to roll 3d6, and you're going to remove the highest die. So it's a little bit kind of like adding in an advantage and disadvantage to stuff, and it keeps it simple, but it's a little bit of a tweak just because it uses 2d6 in this game. So here's all these boons right here. One is fun because it's battle harness. The boon allows your character to wear chainmail bikini or a loincloth and battle harness, light armor at best, and treat it as if it were medium armor for damage protection purposes with no armor penalties at all. So a fun boon there, obviously, that embraces the sword and sorcery genre. Fantastic. Again, like I said, I'll be repeating myself a bunch here. And that's the thing that makes this so easy, right? So this isn't a feat system. This isn't a talent system where you're trying to scheme this system and make it all kind of jive. If I get this, and then I can get that, and I can get this. Now, granted, you can. If multiple things give you a bonus die, you'll get more dice and be able to choose the higher of the 2. That's obviously going to help you. But I didn't see any type of like, this gives me +2 to this attack. This gives me more attacks that do that +2 attack. I'm maximizing my character now. We know some games that do that type stuff. So you don't have that, and I enjoy that. It's keeping it simple again. And then here's flaws. It could be stuff like lumbering, lustful, missing a limb, or mute. Some of these are really up to kind of like the GM, and like with missing an eye or ear, you take a penalty die whenever the GM feels it's appropriate for the situation. So it's easy to get into, but it's loose enough to help someone be a game master, to learn how to be a game master in a very cool setting with an easy system. And that's exactly pretty much what you want. You will learn some languages, obviously. You're going to get some trappings of heroes, it says here, your starting gear. And what I like about this, it says, look at your career. What would you have from that career? Go pick it out. Talk to your game master. This doesn't have to be, some big thing. Oh, I've only got this much money or whatever. If it would make sense to your character from their career, you have it. These are not huge differences in how they do. So right here, you've got like a cudgel, and you've got D6, you've got D6L. And what L means is that you're going to roll 2D6 and take the lowest. If it has an H, you'll roll 2D6 and take the highest. So it's highest and lowest. There are a couple of notes here, but they're not too much. Can be thrown, concealable, two-handed, very easy. Got a bunch of different weapons here. We've got this section. Now, the only thing I would say here that I found a little bit unfortunate was that there are some unique, like, region-based weapons for a certain type of people, but I don't see which one that is. They describe it. I'd like to see a piece of art with it. That was the only thing that I was kind of like, that's unfortunate. There may be a piece of art in here that actually it's what it is. I just would like to have a quick, easy way to say, there it is. That's a Parsul sea axe, But here, we got all the weapons, and that's really easy. Armor is interesting. So armor is going to obviously take away from damage. Very basic. It doesn't really affect how you, if you get hit or not. Now, shields will. Shield will give you a +1 to 2 defense versus like one attack if it's a small one. Or if it's a large shield, you get +1 defense versus all attacks. But it's going to hit down your agility. You see where that balance is. So armor also will affect your arcane cost should you be a wizard or somebody that uses spells. So I do like also that armor affects maybe your social issues. Like it's a social issue where you're like, he's got armor. Something might be up with this guy. So one thing I like is that you can have it be variable. It could be a D3, like light armor is D6 -3. Or if you just want a static number, it's 1. I would use the D6 -3 just to keep it kind of exciting. But I like the fact that they give you that. Light armor gives you that. And you have a choice to pick if you want. I like the little kind of bullet points that they do for certain things like that. Helmet's going to give you +1 more. And then here we have a complete hero creation summary, an excellent piece of art, and then a full example of making a character. And I double-checked this, and it all works out. The examples in this are very strong. The writing is very clear and concise. I was really impressed by this game. The Path of Glory. So here we go. It talks more about performing actions, the effects of boons and flaws, modifiers you may have. And again, this table, much like I said with Dicey Tales, this is it. This is most of what you need is going to be right here. Modifiers to your task roll. So you could have a modifier to that D6. I mean, those 2D6. You're trying to get a 9. And then that correlates to missile fire ranges too. So what a medium would be -1 to that. But then you've got a couple of stuff to play with. And this is where it starts getting fun for the player. And so, that's so we understand it, because the way it's written, I had a little issue when I read Dicey Tales. I ran into it again with this, but it's very easy. Rolling to 12 in any task roll is an automatic success. That means there's always a chance that you can always make something. And here it says mighty success. If rolling a 12 would have been a success in any event, it's a little bit of a weird sentence that kind of hangs me up, but what it's pretty much saying is that if you can get a success on a 12, it's normal. You don't need an automatic success in order to get it done. You have a mighty success. And what that means is, in combat, the results of mighty success are described later. You've got some options you can do in combat that are really fun. And out of combat, and this is important, or it says how you or the GM, if you prefer, narrate this success depends on the task being performed. So this game, a lot of times, allows the player to describe certain things and the player to kind of shape their story a little bit. Now, some people might have an issue with that, but it shouldn't be that. It's fun for a player all of a sudden to have that kind of agency back to them. And then the next thing you have is a legendary success. If you roll a 12 and spend a hero point, you can convert a mighty success into a legendary success. So it had to be something that is normal for you to get a 12. It's not, I've got so many negatives, I have to roll a 12. I can make that into a mighty success and a legendary success. No, that's not how it works. You have to be able to have it where you could make a success. You didn't have to have a 12. You did roll a 12. You spend a hero point, and then you get a legendary success. And it says, in combat, the results of legendary success are described later. And what that means is, and I'll show it to you, but the things you can choose with a mighty success, you can get 2 of them. And that's very strong. However, out of combat, how you, again, or the GM, if you prefer, narrate the success depends on the task being performed. But whatever it is, you do it brilliantly and receive a bonus result, extra information, or some other added advantage that you weren't expecting. So it's just, this whole system right here is very cool, very fun. Automatic failure on rolling 2. Calamitous failure, this is interesting, much like Dicey Tales once again. If you roll a 2, you can say, you know what, I want to make it even worse. But guess what? I'm going to describe how it's bad for me, how I've been put into a disadvantaged situation for at least the current round or the next round, if it's in combat. But I get a bonus hero point, which I can then use. So it's just a neat way to kind of turn your failure into a worse failure, but you learn from it with a hero point. And then we've got task roll examples. I'm very glad that these are here. These need to be, especially when it's a system that's new or different, or it's not really the mainstream. Give us examples, and they do that, and they give us all the different choices, examples in these examples. So it's very good. And then here's that how to use hero points. So a twist of fate, pretty much you can kind of say as a player, hey, I might suggest something that's kind of reasonable. So I'll spend a hero point, and you know what, how about if this happens? And the GM could be like, maybe not, think of something else. Or you can be like, yeah, that is a good idea. You can do, that's going to happen. And it could be everything from, it says like a character is locked in a dungeon cell. She could use a hero point to find a loose stone in the wall, and she can pry away. Maybe to use it to bash the guard over the head when he comes in to serve her slops. I'm going to jump just to one other thing real quick. This has been translated. They've done a great translation. I didn't feel like it was from someone else that's not a native English speaker. Great translation. You can defy death. Death is not good for you, so you want to try to maybe defy that. If you have taken sufficient damage to put you at -1 to -5 lifeblood, you can spend a point to put your lifeblood at 0. You're alive but unconscious. So I'll obviously save you. Splintered shield, shattered sword. You can destroy your weapon or your shield in order to not take damage. Luck of the gods. It lets you re-roll stuff. And this is obviously very small way I'm saying it here. It's a little bit more to it. Again, with the mighty successes, in combat you could do certain things, like you add +6 to your damage caused. Maybe it's carnage. You may make another attack immediately following this one. It could be against the same or different opponent. No further hero points can be spent on this second attack, though. You can disarm somebody, knock them down, a precision strike, or Rabble Slayer, which I love. If fighting Rabble, the damage result becomes the number of opponents taken out of the fight. That's just great. That you really be that massive, huge hero that you should be, destroying all those little peons. And then you've got legendary success that lets you choose 2 of them. Excellent. You can even do +6 damage twice. You can shake off wounds right here. It says it pretty much is it's like a second win. You can do a little heal. You roll d6h. Again, that's roll 2d6 and take the higher, and you can get that lifeblood back, or you can decide with the GM. And you're going to regain used hero points at the end of an adventure, not the session. So you need to really hold on to those, okay, and make sure you use them at the proper time. And then it's got the priority system when it comes to initiative. Again, this is something, if you didn't see Dice Tales, I'll say it here. Pretty much you're going to roll 2d6 plus your mind, so how quick your brain's thinking, your initiative, plus modifiers, total of 9 plus to succeed. So you're just the heroes are doing this. NPCs do not make a priority roll. And then based off what you get, it's a success, a mighty success, a legendary success, it's going to put you in a priority kind of status right here. So heroes with a legendary success go first, then mighty successes, then heroes with a success, and then the villains, and then toughs, and then heroes with failure result, and then rabble, and then heroes with a calamitous failure result. So that's how it works. And this is just a really neat system. There are a couple little modifiers here and there if you're ambushed. If maybe the career might have something to do with it, or if like a tough or a villain has the initiative score, you actually use that to subtract it from the priority roll. And they give you, look at all these, they give you some examples here. Even legendary success example, very helpful. Rules for delays, movement and distance. A lot of this movement and distance stuff is obviously, it's very easy. It doesn't do it. It says, hey, if you want to, way down here, if you're really set on it, 25 feet per round, modified by 5 feet per agility. But this stuff here is going to be like, hey, look, would it be possible for you to get there? Think about it. Think about the situation you're in. Abstractly do it. And a lot of people are doing stuff like that nowadays in role-playing games, and I think that's a good way to do it. And then you got your attacks. And so a lot of the attacks, agility is going to be a very strong attribute for you. 2d6 plus your agility. Sometimes it could be strength if you're doing like grappling or something like that. But let's say you're not, you're just making a swing attack with your sword. It's going to be agility plus your melee minus your target's defense. You're still trying to get that 9, and that's how you're going to succeed. And then you can roll your damage. Ranged weapons, you'll have those modifiers there. It tells you how to resolve a hit. Weapons are pretty much like light weapons, medium, and large in categories. Fantastic art. A lot of some stuff here, especially when it comes to range, is like half strength. Brawling is half strength. So that's also important as well. And there are some cool boons that'll make it full strength for some stuff as well. Hitting damage examples, again, very useful. And then it tells you about careers in combat. It really kind of says, look, you're not going to really be able to add your career to your combat rolls. There could be some ways, maybe, and they give you some slight kind of options for that to explain that to you. You've got some combat options you can use, like all-out attack, bypassing armor, defensive stance, some choices in combat. You're not just constantly swinging that. You say, hey, look, I need to really defend here. Let's go full defense. Hey, I really want to take this guy out. Let's try an all-out attack or two-weapon fighting. And the way that it does it, it's since it has that easy 2d6 roll, this is not very hard to grasp how to do these things. And then, if wounds and death, you don't want that. The lifeblood falls to 0, you fall over stunned, you pass out due to injury. You can spend a hero point, take the next combat round to shake yourself off out of your daze and recover half your lifeblood. If your lifeblood falls below 0, the character is unconscious and dying. They'll lose 1 lifeblood each round until they're stabilized. We know how a lot of this stuff goes. If, because the runes received, lifeblood falls below -5, the character has died. Below -5, so that's -6 in essence, all right? It's going to tell you about how you can heal right here. It has some really good rules here about if someone's watching over you, you'll be able to heal more of your lifeblood. I like that. That's good. Telling you about stabilizing after, stabilizing the dying. And again, examples. We've got examples here. Do examples in your game, people. Tells you about lifeblood for the NPCs, not to worry about it. And then we've got a section here on the Wars of Lemuria, the land battles. That's the stuff I was telling you about when you can actually have, big battles, big armies, and how that works. You'll have an armor rating. They'll be fighting. You're going to have some modifiers to the roll. It's going to be pretty much a task roll that you're going to do. And you're going to get, there's a battle roll here. So it's 2d6 plus the armor rating minus their opponent's armor rating. Take that result and subtract 7 from it. That's how many victory points you get. If you get 10, you win. And so what's interesting is that your players can do adventures in which they affect the battle. Maybe they need to capture a VIP in the battle. Maybe they need to deliver a message in the middle of the battle, or destroy something in the battle, hold a position, or inspire people, kill a VIP, or prevent some sorcery. You're not supposed to use sorcery, and it's kind of like a rule of this land. So it's very cool and how that affects the victory points here. for when you're doing the resolving the battlefield combat. We've got also a section here on ship-to-ship battles. Again, very easy. A lot of it's the 2d6, total of 9. Different maneuvers you can do, ramming, running close, boarding, and catapults. Again, you can see it's not very extremely, real hard to understand. It's not very extremely detailed and making it, like, oh, I'm not even going to mess with that. This is something that you can mess with this in your game. Do it. You don't have to have some sort of crazy new rules that's hard to keep up with. It's easy. I like these silhouettes of these ships. It helps you see the size difference. It was a thing at first where I was like, oh man, I love this art. I'd love to see this ship, but I don't think you'd get the size of it as good to see exactly how it is. It also tells you about how you can do sea creatures. And then there are skyboats. Very neat. They use some alchemical stuff, a type of metal called alanium. It's lighter than air metal. It's going to give you stats for that. Of course, that looks great. And then we're going to get into our gazetteer section. Fantastic art. It's going to tell you about the history, the different ages, the Age of Darkness, the Age of Sorcerer Kings, the First Age of Men. It's not a huge section, which I really enjoy, but it really gives you that oomph of terrible Sorcerer Kings, battles, heroes stepping up, a magical sword. It's just really nice, contained sword and sorcery background history. And it's going to break out into these gods of Lemuria, the 20 gods here. Now, another thing I would say that as just a small little nitpick I have is some of these names are a little bit difficult. I wish phonetically they had told you how you say these names, or anything that's kind of different. Some of the locations and stuff like that. That was something I think was just a slight miss. Like just a page, maybe a page in the back that says, all these different weird names and how you're supposed to say them. That would just be helpful. But you know what? I run into this and I say this in my videos. Just say it however you want to say it. This is your game. Just have fun with it. As long as it comes out of your mouth and you say it in a somewhat confident way, you're good to go. Some great art with these gods and goddesses here. Again, you can see some of that art is definitely embracing the sword and sorcery genre. But I really like these depictions of these gods. You have the dark gods here. They're not part of the 20. And except for this guy, Nimereth, of the long sleep, the death god. A lot of the names are really cool if you can try to say them, or kind of their titles are really neat. It tells you all about them. And then you get into the races. So this is an interesting section. So there are some other races other than human. You got blue giants, the Gruth. Now you can play these. Some of these are only, I think, supposed to be made pretty much for NPCs. But they give you the tools, suggested boons and flaws. But a lot of these I think they want you to make NPCs. But there are blue giants, these Gruth guys you can play as. They tell you about that. They may have some stuff that kind of hampers them a little bit. Blue giants can't be magicians or alchemists. But they have priests. They're called shamans. Tells you who they worship, great art once again, where they're from, and a little bit of their backstory. But then there's some things like this right here, the Morgul's or the Slorth, which I think is awesome. The Kalukan are awesome. These things were, and it tells you a little bit how they were made. Usually it's sorcery or something like that. They bred in vats of ancient alchemies. These beings are incredibly strong, need no food, and never sleep. And so they tell you this. They tell you, if you want to play them, because sometimes it'll say, hey, if you want to play one, this is what you need to kind of do. But they don't have, you've got this much different agility, or you've got this much. They don't change the attributes or the damage or anything like that, attacks or whatever. You need to get the boons. You need to put your attributes at the right level if you think that this guy is super strong, or like maybe one of the blue giants. You're going to need to do that on your end with the points you get. You don't get anything extra like that, but you do get some of their boons, which that's helpful. So I like that a lot. Storth are cool, pretty nasty. There's the Sorcerer Kings there. You've even got some winged folk right there. And then you're going to go into the geography of Lemuria. And this is going to break down. You got this great map here. And this is going to be, it says here, Lemuria is a huge land with a many varied geographic features. Rolling hills, huge mountain ranges, steep scarps and valleys, vast dry plains, dense jungles. And this section is exactly what you expect it to be. I love these pieces of art of the lands, the different type of areas. I dig that. That helps me get a good visual. You got mountains and deserts, the Fire Coast. It's got great names, cool names. Again, some of them might be difficult for you to pronounce, but just go with it. Incredible looking cities. Some of these cities have been destroyed. Some of them are just like the last ones standing. And with his art, they look great. You got Pirate Isles, the port of the Sea Lords. Satarla, the Jewel of Lemuria. It's the grandest city in the continent. Very cool. And this is exactly the section that you expect. Thule is neat. It's the island of the last of the Sorcerer Kings. And just saying some of this stuff out loud, it just gives you that kind of passion for sword and sorcery. I would tell you every once in a while just to kind of say something out loud. And it'll just get you kind of, going for that genre. Valgard, the frozen lands, the northern wastes, obviously a Viking kind of motif right there. Here's a section on plants that you can have, and it's good art there. And then here we got our beast section. This is very easy here. We've got sizes, examples of those, the type of priority they have when it comes to the priority system, damage, how much lifeblood, their strength, and their move, should you need that. And then they're going to have some creature traits, like their own boons and flaws. So when you get to the creature section, it's actually very easy here. Look at this. The stat blocks are very easy. We've got, like, the Banth here. There are these huge Triceratops-like beasts. They're going to be used as beast of burdens, pretty much. They've got some traits, docile attack and poor eyesight. You just flip here, there it is. You've got that, and then you've got their attributes. And one thing that's great, it lets you know, because a lot of times there's confusion about, did you add the strength into the attack? The agility into the attack? Or did they go ahead and add that into the damage? This has all been figured out for you. So all you need when you have combat, the attack, the damage, defense, and the protection. And you've got their lifeblood right there. And should you need other attributes, there they are. So you don't need to do any other math, and that's right here. It's very GM friendly. And great looking creatures here. You do not want to come across them, most of them, I would say. And they will have, occasionally, they'll have some extra abilities here. Crocators are hard to spot when unmoving, and that's all it'll say. Like, it'll just be like, boom, there it is. You work with that however you would. This is not like a very technical game, and I dig that. The Deodarg is one of the Lemuria's most dangerous predators and can smell blood a mile away. You don't need, it's a mile away, it gets plus to this roll to figure out how to do it. It just tells you that, and you work with it as a GM. That's pretty much its mindset is. Here we see a lot more different cool creatures. With, again, the phrase of this video is fantastic art right there. I like the Swampus, very nasty. Terror bird, with a wolf, dire wolf. Zolag, Yorth, Zathog, just go with it. And then I like this, the Bloodless. And I like that name. These are undead. They're corpses that have been reanimated through vile magics and alchemies. And Necropede is very nasty. I wish there was a piece of art for that thing. It is pretty much like a bunch of torsos that come together to make a Necropede. I think you can pretty much figure that out. Necrophage is always a good one. Skittering Hand. Very neat section. And then there's this great section here about demons. Demons are going to play, obviously, a big part of sword and sorcery. You've got minor, lesser, and greater demons. They'll have certain powers that'll only be in the sections here. Like if you get to one of these demons here, it'll say like a power like destructive attacks or poison, special knowledge, or telepathy. You can go to that demon section here to see exactly what that is. There's poison there. And destructive attacks. Great piece of art. Really, really dig that one right there. And then we're going to get into non-player characters. So Rabble is really cool. These are going to be a lot of ordinary. It says ordinary, unnamed, masses, innkeepers, traders, beggars, and journeymen. They're going to fight as a group. If they get together, they're going to form hordes. The more there are, the better their attack rolls are. You've got this NPC table here. It's going to tell you what their attributes or combat would be, how many careers they might have if you need that, how much lifeblood or damage they will have. Villains get villain points, which they can use just like hero points, and a little bit different. Here's toughs. They're going to be a little bit stronger. We've got a lot of NPCs that you could throw at. So here's Tough Thug. I'm always looking for like that grunt I can throw at people. Tribal Barbarian. Again, the Tough Thug will be used a bunch. And then we've got the villains and leads. Big characters that are part of the setting. They have the normal hero points type stuff, but they have a couple other options. Villain points. They have Meat Shield. You can use a nearby rabble as Meat Shields will absorb all damage caused by a single blow. And then a timely escape. And this is something, again, where creating your story as a game master, you can use it so that they escape for another day to haunt the adventures, the heroes, and strike back another day. I dig that. That's really cool. Again, fantastic art. And then you got a section here on the Mysteries of Lemuria. Alchemists. How to make stuff with crafting points, how to make different potions, common potions, uncommon potions, legendary. And these are examples. A lot of this stuff is kind of examples. They really want you to kind of work with your game master and come up with this stuff on your own. mythic potions, even devices and creations, legendary devices. It's very good stuff. A whole section here on priests and druids. So you're going to use your fate points that you get, and usually it ends up being a bonus or a penalty die. So you can get a bonus die, or maybe you give somebody else a penalty die. It's going to be based off of the domain of your god that you worship. So like if you have a god that's about storms, maybe you can incorporate something that deals with maybe rain or lightning, however you can figure it out, and have inventive use of your fate point as it explains here. You taught your game master about it, you'll be able to do it. And again, it usually just involves receiving a bonus die for something. But it could be something completely different as well, or giving someone else that penalty die. And it's a very creative way to be able to kind of, it's not like a hand wave of pre-spells, but it's a way for the player to be creative with the game master and be kind of a jack of all trades, as long as it, again, is something that is in the, I guess, the wheelhouse of the god. And I like that. I think that's very smart. Then we've got magicians. So we've got arcane power. Arcane power is 10 plus their magician rank. So the more ranks in magician, the more arcane power you have. And you've got several classes of spell magnitude. Cantrips, first, second, and third magnitude. These cantrips right here, they usually, it says they rarely cost more than 1 arcane power and only require a task roll when directly affecting a sentient target, or perhaps if the magician has been deprived of his trinkets or fetishes. They're very easy stuff. They give you a couple suggestions here: foul food, illusionary sounds, a minor curse. It's very easy. Then you've got spells of the first magnitude, and this is, again, where all of a sudden it's starting to give you, it gives you some examples. But then it's going to, as you'll see right here, we've got second and third, and then here we've got like example first magnitude spells. But they still want you to, if you need to or want to, you can create your own. Try to work with your game master, create your own. And one thing that's really neat about this spell casting is that you have requirements. So you can lower down the arcane power points that you need. I'm going to say points, but so how much arcane power you need by, if you hinder the casting of the spell, or something has to happen specifically for that spell to go off. It almost kind of reminds me of GURPS, where you're trying to, especially if you look at the Supers book from GURPS, where you're trying to change the way that it works or narrow it down in its power focus in order to make it cheaper for you. So like maybe it can only be cast during a specific hour of the day. Maybe the casting time is very long. Maybe it requires assistance. Maybe the caster must bathe in clean water or essential oil. So it's neat, and what that's going to do is each one of those is going to knock down that arcane power that is needed, and I think that's really cool. So we've got spells of the second magnitude, very strong. These are starting to get extremely strong spells, and then you get this nice little sheet right here. There's going to be some modifiers based off what that spell is whenever because you do have to make a roll on this, like I explained. And then third magnitude spells are extremely powerful. They give you a couple of suggestions here, and the requirements can be extremely costly for you. It may give you big wounds. It may only happen when the stars are right, or you have to have a ritual sacrifice. Maybe the casting of the spell will permanently maybe transform the caster into something horrible. Again, it's working on that thing that as a game master, you're going to work with your player to come up with this stuff, to create your kind of own unique spell. And I really dig that. But it does have example spells there, second and even third, with like a Death Plague or the Stride of Quathumar, which pretty much lets you kind of step into a rift in time and space and reappear anywhere in the world. So it shows you kind of the vastness of what these spells can be. You've got Knowledge and Power, which is a bunch of kind of like grimoires, books of ancient magic. And then you've got a bunch of cults here, a bunch of different cults. I like that it's got a lot of the different people that are involved in it, kind of what's going on with them, and then some adventure ideas at the bottom. And then we've got Sagas of Lemuria. This is going to be for the game master here. How to run the game, weaving the adventure, the tone and style. I really like this. These are core elements of a good sorcery adventure. Maybe being captured, blood-drenched altars to demonic gods, discovering great treasure hoards, forced to fight for one's life in the arena, long-lost temples to primordial gods, lost in the middle of the unmapped wilderness. The list goes on, as you can see. One thing that they point out in here, which I thought was really cool, and it's something a little bit different, is because you have such great characters like Conan, it tells you if you wanted to, you could have it where one of your players is that main character and everybody else is kind of, bodyguards, friends, and stuff like that, and make that character kind of like a specific special character in the story. And I think that's actually really neat. And of course, it also tells you if you don't want to do that, and maybe you're just a band of heroes together, like we all know in role-playing games. But I like the fact that it does give you that kind of notion, like, hey, you know what? This is kind of how it is in Sword and Sorcery. It says here, Sword and Sorcery stories usually concern only one or two main characters, as the typical role-playing group is larger than this. You do need to adapt some styles of play that might be considered slightly out of genre. One solution is to focus the action on a few core characters, while allowing the other characters to occasionally come in as guest stars. It's very interesting. It's different. I like that. Be aware of railroading. There's always the imprisonment angle of, because Conan is captured many times, it says. Then how to deal with rewards. Vast hordes of treasure, gaining advancement points. You're going to do some stuff after you've collected all this loot, and you're going to lose a lot of your fortune, much like Conan sitting there at the table. He's lost a lot of his wealth. You're going to do that in the game. How many you give, so what's going to be is the characters are going to describe how they lost or spent all their fortunes. They can gain advancement points. How many you give depends on how they spent their loot to the best effect. And it says normally you would give 2 AP. However, if their story is particularly good, amusing, or inventive, you can give out an extra point. So I like the fact that, again, it puts it back in the player's hand and said, how did you spend this? And what came of that kind of carousing at the end of that adventure? Then you get your advancement points. It's going to tell you how to do all this stuff. Spending advancement points, improving attributes, train combat, develop more careers. Your careers can get stronger. Buying boons and buying off flaws. You can get rid of some of your flaws. That's great. And then gaining followers. And then there's great examples of this when it comes to how you can gain more people as part of your group. And then it's got the saga. Some great adventure seeds here. There's just like some paragraphs here explaining some really great, and these are just staple seeds of Sword and Sorcery here. It's going to deal with entering a village and everybody's nice to you, but then come to find out they're going to sacrifice you to this terrible thing in the pit. Someone has hired you to go into a jungle to search out a temple, to return an item. You know how these things go, but they did a great job of giving you a lot of great ideas that reinforce that Sword and Sorcery genre. I dig that. And then we've got our 5 adventures right here. And this will say, I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm just going to kind of flip through it. Obviously, I'll be spoiling this. But it's got a lot of great tropes. Deserts, jungles, crazy creatures, powerful enemy forces, NPCs that need help, dungeons and stuff to go and search through, terrible monsters and demons. I dig that a lot. Here's Morgul Knight. I like that one a lot. Some cool maps, cool pieces of art, like always. There's your cast of characters right there to help you along, so you can show your people that. Again, these are still ready-to-play adventures right here, going into taverns, going into cities, dark temples. Really, really dig the fact that they did that. And then you've got Krongar and the Saga Generator. And it gives you an example of how they used it. You'll first roll up. You'll roll up on these tables here. Legend of Madness. Krongar's task is maybe to destroy an object, or to find someone, or to steal a certain thing. The title of the saga doesn't suggest a career. If the title of the saga doesn't suggest a career for the person who is the object of the saga, they are a noble. Maybe it's a noble who needs this, a beggar, a scribe. If the title of the saga doesn't suggest a location, then it's maybe a tomb, or a cavern, tower, a lair, an island, or mountain. It says like the mountain of death or destruction. So you're kind of making that title. And I know that Savage Worlds kind of had this as well, but it gives you a lot more stuff here. Maybe it's a goblet that you're trying to get. Goblet of boiling blood. Krongar gets the task because he's simply Krongar. Otherwise, he'd be thrown in prison. He's blackmailed into it. He was hired to do it. If the title of the saga doesn't suggest an enemy, the villain is maybe an obsessed poet, a fanatical cultist, a treacherous bandit chief. A god interferes with the saga, and it's one of the gods. Maybe it's more complicated. Maybe a severe epidemic plagues the area, or an old admirer is out for revenge. An unexpected admirer admits their love. Rebels are making the area feel unsafe at the time. So you're kind of creating this whole thing as you go. and it's really, really cool. There's an unexpected twist, maybe there's an obstacle, and what's the reward? Absolutely nothing. He was tricked, much less than expected, more than expected. Maybe much less than expected, but it's marked by the gods, which is a boon. And then you've got your tables. So like if you're printing out tables here, you get the PDF. This is one page here. It's got your values. It's got the task roll, priority for initiative. Here's that right there, the easy table right there. You've got your weapons and range, armor, the attributes for the NPC type, and then kind of like the size examples of those NPCs. And then you've got stuff for the navy, demon types, spell magnitude, preparation level for those spells. And that's it. This is, I think you print these out, and they did have a Kickstarter for one of the adventures, like an adventure book that's going to come out. It's also going to have a game master screen and a map, and that's going to be very helpful. I can't wait to get a look at that, especially the game master screen. But really, there's not much here to have to keep track of. You print these out, put them at your table for your players, they're good to go. It's got a lot of stuff that you need. It just shows you the simplicity of the game. Really nice looking character sheet, and I like the fact that this character sheet right here on the back, it tells you a brief thing, the page numbers of how to do the hero points, how to do combat, and spending your advancement points. So that you're just like, oh, what is that? What can I use these hero points on? Well, here it is, and that's going to be on the back of your character sheet. That's going to be very helpful. And then back again, we've got the map of the place, and then that's the back of the book. So this is a game that really excited me when I first started looking at it. At first, I was just bedazzled by, of course, the great art. And I already knew the system from Dicey Tales to some degree, but it was nice to all of a sudden figure out exactly where it kind of came from and how it was. Great production value, easy to read, great translation. It doesn't have an index, which is a little bit of a slight on it. I would love an index and then a page of how to say, pronounce these weird names. That would be, that would be something if I could add to the book. That's what I would add to it. But I love the character generation. I like the simplicity of the system. I like how it throws agency on the players occasionally for some things. It makes them kind of think. Especially if you're playing this with a new player, it lets them go ahead and say, hey, look, I'm not going to just sit back and let this story kind of unfold and I'll just react to things. But, whoa, give me a little moment here. Maybe I'll think of how that's going to affect my character. And I really dig that aspect of it, to throw that back towards the player and let them be creative with it. An easy system, and a system that you when you pick this game up and you read the system and you start going through kind of the tables and stuff, you're like, I'll be able to get this off the top of my head, like no problem. I'll get this game down easy. I don't have to keep track of all these different things, all these different feats and all these different numbers and everything else it does. It's something I feel like you can get complete ownership of this system when you're playing it. And it's going to do exactly the same thing that other games that are sword and sorcery games do. Because again, what we're doing is we're trying to tell stories, and sometimes systems can kind of bog that down. And some people like that. And most of the stuff I say as a positive, some people might think is a negative, but I also don't think that the things that are negative are, they can also be positive as well. I like crunchy games. I like pluses and minuses and doing it kind of that way. But this is just a game that inspires you to embrace sword and sorcery with its great world that they've created. They've got more stuff coming out for it. Adventures that were written, I guess, and unpublished in France are going to be made as well. They've got more Kickstarters on the way. This is a game that screams to be played more. They talk about games that just haven't made the spotlight the way they need to. I don't know where this lands in its popularity, but this seems like it's tragically undervalued. I would play this in a heartbeat. I think anybody that goes through it gets inspired by the art. I mean, even just like right there, gets inspired by the art, the fun character creation system. Maybe they're new to role-playing, maybe they're not, maybe they're an experienced player. This great way to do easy rolls. You're using 2d6. I mean, it's really quite refreshing to see that. You've got some fun uses for the hero points. I think the priority system, for initiative, is very smart, very fun, and gonna make it just easy You know, that's the thing. Nothing in this game that I saw was like, that looks like a slog to learn, or, oh, I'm going to have to keep my mind on that. The only thing you got to know is just get down exactly how, resolving attacks, this section right here, how that works, some of the combat options for you. And like, if you don't even want to mess with big time battles, don't mess with that. If you don't mess with water or air, don't mess with that. You can really do a lot of really cool stuff when it comes to these gods, have them get involved. And then to be inspired, go get some Conan books if you don't already have them. You should already have a bunch, in my opinion. But that's one thing that's great about it. There's tons of really amazing, the best of fiction of sword and sorcery out there that a lot of us already have on their walls. And if you want to get inspired to play this game, go read that, bring this world to life, and I think you're going to have an absolute blast with it. Criminally underrated game. Go pick it up if this looks interesting to you. Let me know what you think about this. If you've played one of the different versions of it, what you think about this actual version with this art, and how that stacks up to maybe the additions that you have or have played. What you think about this one. I'm impressed. Like I said, if I had some sort of rating scale, this would go right up there to the top. It's a game that, again, it makes me want to say, oh, let's play this. Let's get involved in this world. And it's so visual with the great art, and then just how the sword and sorcery genre is. We've already got so much to pull from. It's just reinforced by all those great things. Even fantastic music and stuff we have too that you can play at your table to play this game. So I know I've been rambling. I know this is probably a long video, but really impressed by this book. They've done a great job. A fantastic artist, and I really, really dig it. So I hope this video's been good for you. Hope you've enjoyed it. I know it's been long, like I said, but thanks for sticking in there with me. Thanks for all the new subscribers. I've got more videos coming. Might slow down just a little bit. I've been really trying to pump them out, but I'm going to try to keep going at a good pace that I can work with. There's a lot to read with a lot of the stuff I have. And I hope you really dig these videos that I've been doing. And thanks so much for letting me know when a video has helped you. You've bought the book because of the video. That makes my day. It makes it worth me spending this time reading these products, playing these products, and then letting you know about them. So there it is. Check out the link in the description if you want to pick this up or go take a look at it. And thank you once again. And I look forward to doing the next video for you. Thanks.